you got your 3 fights, right? So I know I saw the email, but I forgot which ones. Which one you going to start with?
All right, we'll start out with the one tomorrow. Where Larry's doing the weigh-in today on the Showtime between Sergey Derevchenko and Elvin Ayala.
Okay, sounds good, man. Now that there's conflicting reports. Is that the main event, or is the Kaitrov Nick Brinson fight the main event?
From what I understand, the Kaitrov Brinson fight is the main event. Strictly because Kaitrov and Brinson have more fights, and Kaitrov is actually a more well-known fighter, than Sergey is for whatever reason, and Brinson is. Ayala has never been really a great name, and Sergey, he only has 5 fights, so I guess it's kind of hard to make a guy with only 5 fights as your main event.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because I saw. I was going through, when I do the challenge, which I was late today. Thank God Joel was asking me about it. I was like, oh, that's right, today's challenge day. But, I put together all the fights from a schedule that I have. And I think originally that Derevchenko fight was supposed to be the main event, but maybe Elvin Ayala wasn't the original opponent when they first made it. Maybe that had something to do with it. But anyway, tell us what you think about this fight and who's going to win and why.
Sergey Derevchenko, this guy right here is exciting. I had the pleasure of sitting on the ring apron back in February when he faced the veteran Vladimir Bios, stopped him in 2 rounds. This guy's a genuine wrecking machine, I'm telling you. His solid amateur career. Fought in 2008 Olympic Games in the World Series of Boxing. Actually, he was 23-1. So, even though he has only 5 pro fights, technically, he's well experienced. They call him the technician, and that's exactly what he is, Bill. The pros on him is, he comes in the ring, he starts fast, and he's strong, and he attacks without a reckless abandon, though. Like a lot of these new era fighters that come from Russia and Eastern Europe, he goes after the body as if somehow, it offended him personally. After he starts hitting the body, the technician part of him really emerges. He hits the body enough to bring the arms down from the head, and then as soon as the head is open, he moves upstairs, and after the assault comes, he starts alternating. He will work the body with the right hand and then the left with the left hand, and then he switches back up again. He gives his opponents little time to breathe, and it's almost impossible to gain any distance from this guy. When his opponents are able to create a little distance using their legs, he walks forward with them, so they never have an opportunity to get 1 or 2 steps backwards and gain any distance to do work of their own. Rarely, if somebody does get off on him, is he there to hit? He has good head movement, better than average. On occasion, if somebody is able to get out of his way, out of his reach, he cuts the distance off quickly, he cuts the ring off quickly. He's not a fleet-footed fighter, but almost like Triple G, he steps over almost 2 steps compared to the fighter's 1, and before they realize it, they're already back in the spot that they started from, and they're in danger again. With 4 of his 5 wins coming by stoppage, there's no feeling out process for him whatsoever. The only cons I have on him is because he hasn't been in with a big name yet, we don't know what type of punch he can take. Vladimir Biasi and Raul Munoz are well-respected journeymen who on their best nights put on a solid showing even in the loss. They've given more experienced fighters tougher nights than have ever Sergey. Very little to pick apart on him at the moment, so all I can say right here is, this is an exciting fighter we want to keep an eye on. Across the ring from him, Elvin Ayala, he has a draw with Sergio Mora in 2007. He has a couple back-to-back wins. And he, too, has fought, some really good quality fighters over the years, even in the loss. He's lost to David Banks. I think those were back in 2007. He lost to Arthur Abraham, Lawrence Simon, David Lemieux, Curtis Stevens. And he's been in there with some good journeymen like Derek Finley, who are pretty versatile. Stevens, Lemieux, and Abraham KO'd him. He's also fought as a light heavyweight. Stevens, Lemieux, and Abraham KO'd him early. That's one of the cons on this guy, is that he fights at a slow pace. And because he fights at a slow pace, this really is not the type of fight for him because Sergey is a fast fighter. He comes in strong, as I stated. The best thing that I can expect from Elvin Ayala is the fact if he is able to, for some reason, withstand the early onslaught, due to the lack of experience, he might be able to get Sergey to go in a little bit deep and make him work a little bit harder than he usually does. And because he can jab going backwards, something that Sergey has never had to deal with, somebody, offering some sort of resistance as he's moving in on him, that's his best chance on this one. But my official pick on here is Sergey Derevyanchenko. Like the other fighters of that area in Eastern Europe, Vasyl Lomachenko, Arthur Beterbiev, who are less than 10 fights officially. He's a natural talent. He's only going to get better with each passing bout. I actually think this fight might hurt his career, even though it's the highest exposure he's going to get as a professional so far. But once people realize how dangerous he is, and he's only going to get better with each fight out there, in another year or two, nobody's going to want to face this guy. He's going to be stuck in a Triple G situation. I can guarantee it.
I'm with you on Derevyanchenko. Elvin Ayala, he comes to fight, but he's an opponent, and he's a good opponent, meaning he's a good opponent to make fighters look good. I'm with you on that. What's the second fight you're going to break down?
All right. Also on that card, we have Levgen Kaitrov and Nick Brinson. Kaitrov, another guy, from that part of Europe. Matter of fact, he's from Russia. He's a confident fighter with a solid chin. He has a come-forward style, and he, too, applies a lot of the pressure, just like Sergey Derevyanchenko. Kaitrov starts fast. He doesn't allow his opponents time to breathe either. And once he hurts his opponent, there's no getting off the hook. He has genuine one-punch power. His combined record of his last 5 opponents are actually 69-4, which is quite a record when you're considering this is a guy who only has 10 pro fights. He always seems to know when an opponent is finished, if you ever watch his fights. When he hits his opponent, even if they don't go down, he knows that they're done, and that's the end of their night. He'll actually walk away, raise his arms up to his side, and get the look to the crowd as if he's saying, I came, I saw, I conquered. Are you not impressed? His confidence overflows and seems to have a psychological advantage on his opponents. We know that in this sport, psychological can affect the fighter a lot more than physical at times, and when you know how to psychologically beat your opponent even before the bell, they're kind of accepting defeat before it even happens. Kaitrov has that ability. The cons on him, while he is strong, he applies pressure, and he does have a good psychological game. He gets hit a little bit too much. When he comes in, he doesn't seem to have a care in the world. I'm not sure if this is because he's been able to walk through guys so far or because he's just so confident that he doesn't feel anybody can hurt him. Eventually, that confidence might be his downfall because you can't walk through everyone, especially, it's the guys that you least expect to do it. Just ask a fellow countryman, Vladimir Klitschko, our undisputed heavyweight champion. Ross Purity, Corey Sanders were supposed to be showcase opponents for him, and he was stopped. Much like Kaitrov, this is Kaitrov is a raw version, just like that version of Vladimir Klitschko, and he doesn't have the amateur pedigree that Klitschko had. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out if he gets into deep waters with Brinson. Nick Brinson, we all know him from the local scene. The pros on Brinson is he's a rugged fighter with decent speed, throws quality combinations when he's at his best. Brinson has a tight defense and a good chin. He's been stopped twice, both were TKO stoppages. He was never down and out. Once was to a more experienced and hard-hitting Lennox Allen earlier in his career. The other one was to Andre Durrell. No shame losing to either one. He has a huge heart. Brinson won't shy away from a brawl if he has to get into one. If you remember, last August of 2013, when he faced Jorge Melendez, they traded knockdowns in the fourth. Jorge Melendez can hit. 29 wins, 27 coming by stoppage. That shows that Brinson has a solid beard. Brinson's only other loss is to undefeated prospect Dominic Wade last year. The cons on Brinson is he can be outboxed, and he doesn't have an elite team behind him to really help him make adjustments in between rounds when they're needed. On his game, he can upset a lot of guys, but because of that lack of quality team, we haven't been able to see that happen yet. So far, his biggest win is over Melendez, who's also a victim of the man he's going to be fighting, Levgen Kaitrov. Melendez fought Kaitrov the same way he fought Brinson, and the same way Brinson fought him. And you know something? Melendez was stopped, and he was stopped brutally. Kaitrov's a different type of fighter, and he has different type of power than Melendez does. And because Brinson is so willing to trade at times, that's going to be his downfall. After some good early action, I'm going by Levgen Kaitrov officially by stoppage.
I got to see Kaitrov fight a few times, and I've seen Brinson fight many times actually. And Brinson, I think your breakdown of Brinson is perfect, but I think Brinson is not even the same fighter he was a year and a half to 2 years ago. I think that he's kind of, and I hate to say it, but I think he's taken on that opponent mentality. And I think that in itself, he starts this fight 2 strikes down, and Kaitrov is the type of fighter that likes to put on a good show, and he gets frustrated when he doesn't destroy his opponent. And I agree with you. I think Kaitrov is going to win this fight, not only win this fight, but put Nick Brinson to sleep. So, I'm with you on that one, too.
And that part of Brinson, I agree with you 100%. It has seemed he has taken that role. And just to reiterate, as I was saying in the breakdown, it has a lot to do with his team. It's not just Nick. If we think about a lot of the fighters that come from that area over the last couple of years, like even say, a Mikey Farragon, so to speak, they've all suffered that same way. They've never had anybody help to bring out that natural talent and ability they have. The only one we've actually seen over the last decade from that region who's really excelled is Amir Imam.
Yeah, well, they got that other fighter, Don King, signed him. They pulled
Trevor
him.
Bryan.
Right, they took him out. He was, wasn't he? Didn't he fight with Amir Oman in the same gym? They're both from Albany, right?
Well, he came out of our gym. Vince Kittle and mine's in Schenectady. Trevor. I spoke about him before. He was a big kid, 14 years old. He was almost 6'4" or something like that. And he always had a strong work ethic as an amateur, and he was going to go to college on a football scholarship. While there touring the school, he just happened to be talking to somebody at one of the fraternities, and they got into talking about what the football program was like. Trevor just happened to mention about his amateur career so far. He was the top JO in the country for about 5 years in a row, and he had won some Junior Olympics and some Pan Am Games medals. And he was saying he wished there was a school that would offer a scholarship on boxing, because that's what he wanted to do. And it just so happened the school he was at touring for a possible football scholarship is one of only 2 schools in the country that offers a boxing scholarship, and that's North Michigan University, and that's how he got his college ride.
Didn't Sammy Bunch say that he was training him?
Trevor was with Vince Kittle throughout. Sammy Bunch, trained some guys, but they're decent guys. But I can't really think of anybody that Sam Bunch has trained that has excelled. He had those couple brothers there, and another guy that Sammy Bunch did train he was actually supposed to be the one from the Capital District that came out as the emerging heavyweight and the super future star, Kim Du-Bethel. Kim Du-Bethel, who's a few years older than Trevor, they would actually spar, and we had tape on him where he was trying to knock Trevor out. I mean, literally trying to knock him out sparring, because that's kind of how they were in their gym. They didn't believe in taking it easy, and Trevor just ate every single punch that Bethel gave him. Like we're talking a 15-year-old kid, but just acting, Bethel was letting loose some bombs, and Trevor's walking through him like, he was getting hit by Paulie Malignaggi. And Kim Du-Bethel, we know where he is now, when we see where Trevor Bryan is now. So
exactly.
You tell me, who's the better trainer? The guys at Schenectady or Bunch's gym?
It's funny you say that. I was ready to say, yeah, well, where's Kim Du now, But anyway, what's the third fight, brother?
All right. Our third fight is going to be on the Golden Boy promoted card on HBO Latino Saturday, and that's between Dmitry Mikalenko and Johan Perez. Okay,
that's the HBO Latino card, right?
Yes, and that's for a minor title. Actually, it's for the NABA welterweight title.
All right, tell us about that one.
All right, we got Mikalenko. He's an undefeated fighter. Dimitri's an accurate pressure fighter. He lands, if you look at his stats, which, don't exist according to somebody in the chat room, Mikalenko in a lot of his fights will land up to 50% or more than 50% of his overall punches. His opponents, that Mikalenko, he throws a wide variety of combinations. He's a hard guy to figure out at times. He never repeats the same pattern twice, so he's not a guy that you go in there and you're going to expect him to throw a jab, hook, and then an uppercut. Never will you see him throw the same thing again. He doesn't give his opponents a lot of time to think about how they're going to adjust to his awkwardness, because he produces out a lot of volume. Dimitri's moniker is the mechanic, and as it implies, he's always looking for a solution to fix the problem in front of him. Unlike other mechanics who repair what is broken, Dimitri breaks down what's in front of him, and, so far he's gotten the job done, 100% satisfaction rating 19 times. The cons on him is he stayed inside a little bit too much, and he's not the fastest guy. His opponents are usually physically stronger than him, and they can, get over on him with some roughhouse style tactics and bully him, and that can kind of take away from his volume punching if he is forced to do the retreat. So far, he hasn't been, luckily for him. His footwork isn't the best either. If you get the right opponent in there who knows how to turn him, forcing him to reset, because he has no power, that volume is going to shut down as well. His best win to date is over Sechu Pao. This is only his fourth fight out of Russia. Unlike the other Russian fighters or the guys over from Eastern Europe, he's not a destroyer. He's more of a Kasim Uma type where, he lets the points just pile up, and that's how he gains his victory. Across to him, Johan Perez, this is a kid, 22-1. A lot of people don't really know who he is other than his losses. This kid's a former two-time WBA 140-pound interim title holder. Doesn't sound like much, but when you look at his two losses, one's to Pablo Cesar Canal, the other one's to Mauricio Herrera. Herrera and Canal are both better than anybody Mikalenko has ever beaten. The pros on him is he has pressure and he has willingness. He'll walk an opponent down. He'll slug with them if he has to. He'll go through any storm needed to get into side where he does his best work. He has a solid body attack. He uses it as his bread and butter punches towards a victory. He's well-traveled in terms of different opponents of different levels of his opposition. He's been in pure boxers, brawlers, punchers, and he's well educated inside that ring. This is a guy who handed the hard-hitting Japanese fighter Yoshihiro Kamagage his first loss, and he's the only guy to hold the win over the Pittsburgh kid Paul Spadafora. He's a tough fighter to figure out on the judges' cards. What I mean by that is you get judges that favor boxers, and you get ones that favor pressure fighters, or the ones that land the more solid shots, even if they're not putting out volume. In his two losses, he had the same margin twice. In 2012, when he lost to Pablo Cesar Canal, after the fight was stopped due to in the seventh round due to a head clash, the scores on that card read 68-65 twice and 67-67 once. So he lost on a technical decision. Against Herrera, where he was being thoroughly outboxed, that's another one that came by a majority decision. The scores on that card were 116-112 and 114-114. So he's never been dominated, and he's always dangerous. The only cons on him are he gets to hit a little bit too much, and he's kind of flat-footed. That's a funny fact, only because he's been on quite a few Canelo promotion cards in Mexico. Canelo's a flat-footed fighter himself, so I guess they decided to work together. They have a lot in common inside the ring. Of course, Canelo's a more quality fighter, but this is a kid that can't be overlooked. My official pick here, though, is Mikalenko due to volume. Perez's lack of footwork isn't helping the cause. He likes to set up that long straight to the body, and with Mikalenko always so close, that takes the asset away. If you can't get that long straight right hand out, you can't score. But depending on the judge preferences, never count this kid out. Mikalenko is not exactly the pure boxer type, so if the judges aren't seeing it and he's not entertaining him, what might happen here. But Mikalenko is my official prediction in this one.
I thought we were going to all be, the both of us were going to be together, but there's something about Johan Perez I've always liked. You make some great points, but I'm going against you on this one. I think it's going to be Johan Perez's night, and I think Perez is going to win this fight. So I'm with you on two, but not that one. So great job as usual, Dax.